All right, I will call this meeting of the Senate Judiciary Committee to order. Will the Secretary please take the roll?
Senator Flores, Senator Orenshaw,
Here.
Senator Lang, Senator Nguyen, Senator Hansen, Senator Krasner, Senator Ellison, Chair Scheibel.
And I am here. Please mark Senators Krasner and Nguyen present when they arrive. Welcome everybody to the Senate Judiciary Committee. We have 2 bills on for hearing this afternoon. Unless somebody jumps up and gesticulates wildly, I will take them in order. Not seeing that happening, we will go in order, and I will open up the hearing on AB 167. Come on up whenever you are ready. I know you're new to this room, so I will warn you that the button to turn on the microphone looks like a sticker that was left on top of the table when you press it and it turns red. Red means speak. So please go ahead.
Oh, this is on.
Let's see how the presentation goes, Senator Ellison. When it's red, that means the mic is hot. It's time to speak.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, Vice Chair Flores, and members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen for Assembly District 32. Thank you so much for the opportunity to hear AB 167. In its amended form, you should have a copy of the recent amendment from Clark County, which is a friendly amendment, and we are so grateful for the collaboration that we've had with Clark County and other stakeholders on this important bill. I'm actually just going to do a little bit of an introduction and then turn it over to my very capable co-presenter, but a little history on how this bill came to my attention. I had the honor of working with the Youth Legislature last fall for some of their meetings, and I happened to be there when it was time for them to whittle down which legislative bill they would bring, which they're allowed to by statute to bring 1 bill to the legislature. And while I was there and they were presenting, I think at the time it was about 5 of the bills, I had the opportunity to hear Satara Raganti, my co-presenter. She had an actual bill at the Youth Legislature. Hers did not make the final cut. They had a lot of good ones to pick from. But I was quite impressed because hers dealt with, well, for terminology's sake, we'll just say solitary confinement in regards to youth that are in facilities. And I know that we had dealt in this legislature with adult solitary confinement last session and did some reforms. So I was intrigued. We met, we talked about her concerns. I said, you know, maybe I could carry this as one of my bill draft requests. And that began our relationship. So she did all the heavy lifting and met with stakeholders, and I think she will confirm that what she has learned in this process, that even us in the adult legislative side, we have an idea, we want to help and solve problems, and then we get into the layers of it and we realize maybe there aren't some of the problems that we were concerned about, which is a good thing, but if there are still some remaining things. So I'm here to tell you the good news is we really want to give a shout out to our youth, juvenile justice folks in the state and in the municipalities. They're doing a really great job. We're here to maybe help fine-tune a couple things, and so I'm at this time going to turn the rest of the presentation over to Youth Legislator from Senate District 15, Satara Raganti. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. My name is Tara Raganti, R-E-G-A-N-T-I, and I'm the Nevada Youth Legislator for Senate District 15. I want to begin by thanking you all for the opportunity to testify on behalf of AB 167. I would also like to thank Assemblymember Hansen for sponsoring this bill and guiding me through this process. And additionally, I would like to recognize Jeff Rogan from Clark County, whose support and collaboration with county facilities has been instrumental in shaping the bill before you today. Earlier this year, the Nevada Youth Legislature asked each of us to propose a bill. I spent hours reading through past legislation, looking for gaps, and thinking seriously about the kind of change I wanted to bring to our state. I kept coming back to our justice system, specifically juvenile justice, an area that isn't always in the spotlight, yet has a lasting impact on the lives of young people. A few months prior, I had met a woman in Washington, D.C., who worked with the Center for Children's Law and Policy. She spoke to me about the Stop Solitary for Kids campaign, which opened my eyes to the possible emotional harm isolation can have on young people. That conversation stayed with me, and when I returned to Nevada, I began researching our policies on corrective room restriction, a term that, while clinical, often translates to a young person spending hours, sometimes days, alone in a confined space, away from support systems they need most. When Assemblymember Hansen offered to sponsor this bill, I got to work, speaking with stakeholders, listening to their concerns, and learning from their experiences. I also visited the correctional facility here in Carson City. I wanted to see what corrective room restrictions looked like with my own eyes. I'm 17 years old, and that day, I spoke with 2 other 17-year-olds who were currently in room confinement. They shared why they'd been placed in isolation, how long they had been there, and how it felt. That visit solidified for me that AB 167 matters. It matters because juveniles in custody are still juveniles, many of whom are dealing with trauma, mental health struggles, or just trying to find their footing. They are still developing emotionally and neurologically, and we owe it to them to ensure our systems are not making that development harder. According to a report from the Nevada Association of Juvenile Justice Administrators, over 55% of youth within the juvenile justice system have at least one mental health diagnosis, end quote. The original version of this bill called for mandatory mental health visits for youth placed in room confinement. After extensive discussions with stakeholders, including detention officials and facility staff, we made adjustments to better reflect the operational needs of these institutions while still prioritizing the mental health of our youth. The result is the first reprint, which retains the bill's core purpose: to ensure mental health is not ignored in room confinement decisions. The language now reads with a minor amendment to the first reprint. A child who is subjected to corrective room restriction for more than 24 hours must be provided a review of the corrective room restriction status by a member of the staff of the facility at least once every 24 hours. Any such review must include, without limitation, a review of whether a referral for a mental health screening, evaluation, or treatment is appropriate. If upon review the corrective room restriction is continued, the continuation must be documented in writing, including, without limitation, an explanation as to why no other less restrictive option is available. AB 167 introduces accountability, ensuring that room confinement is not used excessively, and it places mental health at the forefront of the decision-making for youth in custody. At its heart, this bill is about balance. It recognizes the responsibility of staff to maintain safety while also recognizing that punitive isolation without reflection or support doesn't serve the long-term well-being of the child or the community they will return to. I'm proud to bring AB 167 forward as a young Nevadan who believes in second chances and the power of rehabilitation. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you so much. We are just addressing a technical issue with the amendment appearing on Nellis. All the members do have a printed copy at their desk, though, so I'm confident that we can move forward with questions while we address that. Members, who has questions? We'll start with Senator Ellison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You did a wonderful job, by the way. Very, very good. I've never seen the juvenile in this way, because I've seen them in Elko, but if they're confined in these areas, if they do have mental problems, and it says here they check on them every 10 minutes. So is there a restroom in these cubicles, or do they take them out? How do they do that?
Satara Ganti for the record. Madam Chair, to you and through you to Senator Ellison.
Please go direct.
Okay. When I visit these facilities, they do have a toilet usually in the confinement room, but they have a separate room for showering.
Okay. And then And they still check them every 10 minutes? They go through and look through the window, I imagine. Is that it?
Satara Ganti, for the record, yes, they look through the window, make sure they're okay, still, breathing and functioning. But we want to, with this bill, add that they're looking for any mental health issues in the child when they're doing that check-in.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Other questions from members of the committee? Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Assemblymember Hansen, and to our youth legislator for the presentation on the bill. And it's really wonderful to see you tackle this issue. I think a lot of teenagers maybe aren't aware, of this issue and of, juvenile justice. And one question I have is, do you think if the bill passes and signed into law by the governor, do you think that maybe children who are in juvenile detention facilities who might have an undiagnosed mental health concern might get connected with treatment where maybe they wouldn't have without your bill? Do you think this might lead to more interventions on mental health issues that maybe had been undiagnosed before?
Satara Ganti, for the record, yes, that is the hope, is that we're strengthening these partnerships between mental health professionals and these facilities. I know many youth are screened upon arrival, but obviously being in confinement can bring up some underlying issues. So the hope with this bill is that we are strengthening those relationships. We're making sure that those kids are getting the help they need.
Thank you very much, and thank you to the Assembly member. Thanks, Chair.
Madam Chair, if I could just add a little bit of context as well. In 2024, just to get an understanding for the committee to understand how many youth fall in this realm of juvenile being detained in a juvenile facility. On the state level in 2024, we had a total of about 1,480, and in county facilities. And in state facilities, 2024, about 850. The good news is, when it came to corrective room restrictions, which is the terminology we use instead of solitary confinement, is that the majority of the youth are confined less than 2 hours. There's only about less than 50 that ever hit the maximum in statute of 72 hours. So the reason for this legislation is for, luckily, the minority that are going to be in longer than 24 hours, say, up to the 72-hour limit by statute, existing statute, that those youth at the 24-hour mark would have a review. And the reason for the change in that language in the amendment that we totally support is assessment tends to be more of a medical terminology. And as we were rolling out this on the Assembly side, we realized, especially for rurals, that you don't always have a mental health professional on site all the time. And how can they comply with some of the things we were asking for? So after a lot of deliberation and collaboration, just that the youth would have at the 24-hour mark a review from a staff person to be able to recommend an actual assessment or looking into their situation.
Thank you very much, Assemblymember Hansen. I appreciate the bill. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Other questions from the committee? Senator Hansen.
Well, I heard a bad rumor that the governor was going to veto this one, but it might just be a rumor. Just kidding. Actually, you're 17. You're a senior at Sage Ridge, was it? Super impressive, I got to say. You did an excellent presentation. You're on top of all the issues. You and I discussed it briefly. I had no idea the depth of knowledge you had in our little brief conversation. But I do want to a little bit of understand when you're talking a mental health screening by a person on staff, what are they looking for? I mean, they're in solitary or whatever the new term is. What is that person who's a staff member actually supposed to try to find when doing this mental health evaluation?
Satara Ganti, for the record, so they're not doing a mental health screening because the bill is only saying if whoever's checking in on that child, do they need a mental health screening? And what they're looking for is there signs of self-harm? Is there signs of depression? Have they been crying for hours? Are there any suicidal thoughts that are present that they can visibly see? And many of these staff are trained in suicide prevention, so they're familiar with what these symptoms look like, with what this child might be going through. So that's what they're looking for when they're doing that evaluation.
Very good. As always, I've been so impressed with your presentation, I got to tell you. 17, you're poised as can be. So next time ask me to be a co-sponsor. I'm kind of hurt by that, but I got it. Don't want to damage the bill. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, and I agree. Your presentation was incredibly impressive, and you have an excellent mentor by your side, so I'm sure that helped. Other questions from members of the committee? All right, I don't see any other questions. I have one quick kind of clarifying question. I noticed that in the amendment, in addition to removing the language about the 24-hour maximum, which I appreciate knowing is because people are not reaching the 72-hour maximum, excellent reason to not have to make that change. I think the amendment, if I'm reading this correctly, also removed what was previously in the bill, a restriction on the number of times a juvenile could be placed in a restrictive room, like to 7 per month. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about why that was taken out.
So Tara Gonti for the record. So actually in that part of the original bill, it was saying that if a child is placed in corrective room restrictions 7 times in a month or more than that, they can petition for a supervisor to look over that record and see if all these instances are truly fair and just. However, there's already in statute that their attorney or their caretaker can file or petition for a grievance if they feel their treatment is unfair. So we felt that it was unnecessary filing for the systems to be doing if there's already something similar in place.
That makes perfect sense to me, so thank you. Really, we commend you on your excellent preparation and presentation today. We enjoy having youth legislators here, and also Assemblymember Hanson, we enjoy having you here too. So thank you both. And not seeing any other questions, we will move now to testimony. We will start with testimony in person in support of AB 167. Anybody wishing to give support testimony in person in Carson City or Las Vegas is invited forward to do so now. And we will start here in Carson City. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Nick Shepek, N-I-C-K-S-H-E-P-A-C-K. I'm the Nevada State Director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center, as well as I sit on the board of Return Strong. I have had the pleasure of working with this body over multiple sessions on solitary confinement reform for adults. And one thing I do want to make clear is anytime you lock an individual in a room they cannot get out of and they are alone, that is solitary confinement. You can call it whatever you want. That is the definition. This bill takes an important first step into ensuring that we treat youth who are held in solitary properly and ensures that they get the mental health treatment that they need, and starts a very important conversation around this type of youth confinement that I hope continues into sessions to come. We support this bill and we encourage you to do this.
Good afternoon, Angela Knott from the Washoe County Public Defender's Office, ANGELAKNOTT. We support AB 167, and we're thankful to the Assemblymember Hanson for bringing this issue to the forefront. We need to be talking about this. We need to be talking about our children who are in confinement and the mental health issues that they are struggling with. Thank you.
Good afternoon to the committee. My name is Addison Clark, and I'm here in support of this Assembly bill today on behalf of teen mental health in Northern Nevada. Throughout my time being the chair of the Children's Cabinet Youth Mental Health Committee, we have done a significant amount of training in suicide prevention and identifying different struggles that teens may be dealing with. One of the things that we learned throughout this training was teens seem to feel the most isolated, and children seem to feel the most isolated and alone when they feel like they can't talk to anybody. And I've seen this work firsthand. I've done it for the past two and a half years. And that's why we're in support of Assembly Bill today. Excuse me, because I think that it's really important, and I really hope that you can support it as much as I do. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and Committee. My name is Sabrina Schnur, S-A-B-R-I-N-A-S-C-H-N-U-R, and I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Psychiatric Association. We are in support. We thank the wonderful sponsors, and thank you so much for your time.
Hi, thank you, Chair, members of the committee. My name is Harrison Epstein, Harrison Epstein, legal extern for the Clark County Public Defender's Office. Just wanted to say thank you to the bill sponsors for a wonderful presentation once again, and to say that subjecting children to corrective room restriction inflicts a massive psychological toll. Enhancing access to mental health care for children after they've been placed in these corrective rooms is a measured step in lessening those psychological impacts. No child should ever be placed in solitary confinement, but if it will continue to exist as an option, it should be measured, only used as a last resort, and the children subjected to it should be given mental health care afterwards if facility staff determine it is appropriate. Thank you.
All right, I don't see anybody else coming forward to give support testimony in person, so we will go to the phones, please, for support testimony on AB 167.
If you would like to testify in support to Assembly Bill 167, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Denise Bolaños Heredia, Bolanos Heredia, and I'm the Associate Director of Return Strong, an organization that fights for the rights and dignity of incarcerated people and their families here in Nevada. We are here in strong support of AB 167. We've taken steps to limit this practice for adults in our state. Our children should not be the exception. Solitary confinement, no matter how it's labeled, has devastating impacts on young people's mental and emotional development. And this bill ensures that if it's used, it's truly as a last resort, time-limited, and closely monitored. Most importantly, it affirms that every child deserves dignity, support, and the opportunity to heal and grow. We urge you to support AB 167 and protect our youth from this deeply harmful practice. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and honorable members of the Senate Judiciary Committee. My name is Sebastian Rios, SEBSTIEN, RIOS, and I am a high school senior currently attending Leadership Academy of Nevada. I am testifying before you today in my personal capacity to express my support for AB 167. I hope to share key takeaways and points from the legislation that I feel would positively and strongly impact youth community here in the state. To begin, I currently serve on the Nevada Youth Legislature alongside Youth Legislator Riganti. As Youth Legislator Riganti has shared, solitary confinement is an extremely important issue that affects youth and is currently affecting youth today, right now, as we speak. We've learned that solitary confinement can be counterproductive to the goals of juvenile justice of reducing recidivism if the youth are not provided with proper care. Having positive social interaction outside of that environment is important, and so ensuring fair and accountability-directed practices are taken is key, especially with our youngest citizens. Our purpose of the juvenile justice system should be to mold our youth into good, law-abiding citizens, and so an effective way to do this is to provide them with individual guidance. And so ensuring they have adequate mental health resources would guarantee they are making progress towards improvement and change. Many of these youth have the capacity to do great things in their communities. Recidivism is avoidable, and so it is vital that we provide youth the tools they need to succeed. To conclude, our juvenile justice system has the capacity to reduce recidivism and implement positive practices. In every child, there is hope that they may grow up to become a great citizen. And so the more chances we can provide them to build a positive mentality towards growth and not a negative mentality, the better our youth community will be for it. Together, we can build a more active, positive, and success-driven youth community, which is dedicated to service and not crime. With that all being said, I support AB 167, and I hope it passes so that this can become a real impact. Thank you all for your time and consideration.
Caller with the last 3 digits ending in 323, you are unmuted and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the Senate Judiciary. My name is Elizabeth Flores, ELIZABETHFLOREZ, and I am the Director of the Washoe County Department of Juvenile Services. I am calling in support of AB 167 and wish to express my thanks to Assemblywoman Hanson and Youth Legislator Sitara Raganti for having crafted this bill by working with juvenile justice agencies across the state to achieve a thoughtful and impactful piece of legislation. Facility staff are required under Nevada law to complete extensive training in areas like signs of suicide, suicide prevention, trauma-informed care, juvenile rights, and the proper use of room restriction. Additionally, NRS 62C.035 requires a mental health screening for all youth booked into juvenile detention centers. Corrective room restriction, when used appropriately, helps reduce uses of force and prevents violent situations from escalating. AB 167 codifies the policies that already exist in local, regional, and state facilities whose responsibility is to provide for the safety and well-being of youth in our care. Thank you.
Chair, there are no further callers wishing to provide testimony in support at this time.
All right, we will move to testimony in opposition of AB 167. Anybody wishing to testify in opposition is invited to come forward here in person in Carson City or Las Vegas. Not seeing anybody, we will go to the phones, please, for any opposition testimony on AB 167.
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 167, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers wishing to provide support in opposition at this time.
Okay, we will go to neutral testimony, starting here in Carson City or Las Vegas in person. Anybody wishing to come forward and testify in neutral is invited to do so now. I don't see anybody coming forward, so we will go to the phones, please, for neutral testimony on AB 167.
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 167, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers wishing to provide neutral testimony at this time.
All right, then that concludes testimony on AB 167. If the sponsors have any closing remarks, we'll invite you forward to give those now.
Chair Scheibel and committee, thank you so much for the opportunity, and I'm really going to just give my thanks not only to this committee but to all those who worked to help Sitara have a wonderful experience in learning how all this really works, and appreciate all their help. So thank you again.
Sitara Raganti for the record. I would also like to express my gratitude for allowing me to present AB 167 today. AB 167 is the first step towards addressing the mental health concerns for our youth in custody. We need to strengthen juvenile detention facilities' partnerships with mental health providers. Every juvenile in that system is the future of Nevada. We need to protect them and we need to help them. AB 167 does that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. At this time, I will close the hearing on AB 167, and I will open the hearing on AB 321. Please come on forward, presenters of AB 321.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Scheibel and the members of the Senate Committee on Judiciary. I am Jovan Jackson, representing Assembly District 6. I am presenting AB 321, which is an important step for those who successfully completed the firefighting program as an inmate, and give them opportunity to have that same opportunity when they're released out of incarceration. A little background information on the bill. Nevada, like many Western states, faces increases wildlife risk and a growing need for skilled firefighters. At the same time, formerly incarcerated individuals often struggle to find stable employment and housing after release from prison. Many of these individuals have gained valuable skills working on firefighter crews and conservation camps while in custody, but face barriers to continue this work after release due to the lack of transitional support and employment pathways. Assembly Bill 321, in its second reprint, addresses the issues by creating new opportunities for reentry and workforce development. The bill authorized a transitional housing and training program for eligible offenders and established a hiring program to help former offenders transition into professional firefighting roles with the Division of Forestry by connecting them to reentry support with critical workforce needs. AB 321 helps break down the cycle of recidivism and support public safety and strengthens Nevada's wildlife response. Before I move forward to break down the bill section by section, I do have Mr. Sean Griffin to help co-present the rest of the bill, and he will take over after I break down each section. Chair Scheibel, at this time, I will go over each section. Section 4.5 authorizes the Director of Department of Corrections, NDOC, in coordination with the Division of Forestry to establish a transitional housing program for offenders that are eligible for minimum security and have previously been denied parole solely because they lack other available transitional housing. This program will provide training in forestry management and conservation, equipping participants with the skills and experience needed for successful reentry. I had discussions with Department of Corrections directly with Assemblymember PK O'Neill, and we learned that some individuals are being denied parole solely because of the lack of stable housing. This program is designed not only to provide safe housing, but also to offer training in forestry management and conservation. By doing so, it gives participants the opportunity to develop marketable skills and prepares them for successful reentry. Section 5 of the bill requires the state forestry fire warden to establish a hiring program specifically designed to provide a pathway for former offenders who worked on firefighting crews and conservation camps to be appointed to the firefighting positions within the Division of Forestry to be eligible, but they must have served as a former offender assigned to a conservation camp program. I thought this was important that we had these guidelines in here because I know each state has different requirements or what they allow to be an inmate firefighter. So these individuals who will be allowed to be hired by law would be only individuals that served in Nevada Department of Corrections. And they also must successfully completed the required firefighter training. Also, they must obtain any necessary certifications for employment as a firefighter with the Division of Forestry and meet other qualifications established by the state forester fire warden. We thought that was important. We really feel that these individuals are more than qualified, maybe more qualified than an average person, and that, that the process should be competitive, and even with being competitive, that they will still have a great opportunity to be hired. The fire warden is also authorized to adopt regulations to implement this hiring program. I will pass the rest of the presentation to Mr. Sean Griffin.
Good afternoon, my name is Sean Griffin. S-H-A-U-N.
I don't think your microphone's on.
I gotta press the red light, not the green light.
Yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Griffin, S-H-A-U-N, G-R-I-F-F-I-N. Chair Scheibel and the committee, I'm grateful to be here to support AB 321 and Siobhan Jackson's bill. I've been volunteering out at the prison in northern Nevada, correctional center, for over 30 years teaching poetry. Every night when I go out there, we get to the end of this discussion, and it usually goes like this. When I get out of prison, I'm going to be able to do X. And there's a long silence in the room. About half the guys in my room are lifers, meaning they're not getting out. The other half are younger, meaning they are. And the lifers don't answer. And then after the silence goes away, I say something like this. You're going to need 3 things to get out. You're going to need a supportive community, you're going to need a place to be, live, and you're going to need a job. And they all look at me like, well, that's easy. I've got that wired. I got that down. I said, well, look around the room and see who's not responding. See who's not saying a word. I've worked with over 200 people in this time. I've stopped counting. Most of them have stayed out. Most of them have not gone back. We've lowered the recidivism rate on the yard. We've saved everybody money. Best of all, we've given back these men their agency, their self-worth. And that happened because in all those cases, except a very small number, someone cared enough to watch out for them when they had virtually nothing. And now they do. And getting that job, getting this job particularly, this job that Assemblyman Jackson's talking about, is huge. Why this hasn't happened before, I just don't know. This is a no-brainer. This legislation should have been done a long time ago. If you can fight fires when you're locked up, you can fight fires when you're outside. So this is a huge step forward, and it's something we need to support. You know, Governor Lombardo appointed me the state poet laureate 1 year ago. And if you don't believe what I'm telling you right now, I encourage you to walk out of here when you're done with the committee today and go into the lobby and read the poems that are standing on those easels by the men in my workshop. That's who I'm teaching. And those are some of the men that are going to get out, some who sadly left us, and some who will not get out. But all of them hold out this hope that there is a world for them to walk into and rebuild their lives. And that's the only reason I go out there. It's not to teach poetry. I love poetry, but it's to help them find a way forward in the middle of all this chaos that is called the justice system. And it is chaos. The other night, my wife was singing in a choir, and the conductor, a Jewish man, talked about the origins of this song, the last one they sang, and he quoted Micah 6, and this is really it. Do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. And that's why I'm here. Thank you.
I also have one other co-presenter, Ms. Paloma G. Oh, not co-presenter.
Paloma Guerrero for the record, Clark County Public Defender's Office. I think we're open for questions.
Now I did it. I didn't hit the microphone button. All right, any questions from members of the committee? Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Is there anybody here from Department of Forestry, actually? No. I'm just wondering, because I know they've used inmates to fight fires and stretch fences and all sorts of stuff over the years. Just wondering in a normal year how many people participate in that, and then how many people this potentially could help employ when they get out. I don't know, is it 10 a year or 100 a year? I mean, have anybody got any clue? You have 13,000 inmates. They're no less than that now, but I don't know what the percentage is. 1,000, if 10% get out every year, it's 1,300. How many theoretically could actually be employed in that transitory window when they're getting out and re-enter society through this program? Any ideas?
Paloma Guerrero for the record. Ms. Casey, who's a fire warden for the Division of Forestry, the Nevada Division of Forestry, was at the last presentation on the assembly side. So I did hear her speak on this issue. The conservation camps are a partnership between the Nevada Division of Forestry and NDOC and have been going on since 1958. She said at the height of it, they had about 30 working groups, and each of those working groups had about 10 people. But now there's shortages. She says she only has about 2 to 3 working groups, and they're having to hire from out of state. And this is definitely a way to help fulfill some of those shortages, and that will help them a lot. One of the things that they asked for was Section 4.5 of the bill, which is sort of a 2-step program that they're mirroring off of Arizona, so that people who are on parole can also begin to start on these programs, and then once they're off of parole, they can be hired on as well. I don't have exact numbers, but I can try and get those for you as well.
That gives me an idea. Now, the transitional housing you're talking about are the conservation camps primarily?
So their transitional housing language is an enabling language. That's something that they ask for so they can try to make these transitional housing programs so that they can begin on the workforce program, but also provide therapy and counseling that they need to continue and be successful.
Okay, and this is for inmates that are still on parole, right? Okay, they're not, okay, good. All right, very good. No, it sounds like a great idea. So, again, we want to get people back on their feet, and this seems like a very good transitional window to allow that as they transition from, being full-time prisoners to back into society. It gives them an opportunity to make some money, get some stability without having a guard over them 24/7. So, sounds like a great idea. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Other questions from members of the committee? Okay, I'm not seeing other questions. I do have a question because I know that in past sessions we've heard that individuals who fight fires while they're incarcerated then leave the Department of Corrections and are unable to get hired by the Department of Forestry. And I've never completely understood if that was a certification thing or a criminal record issue. And so can you explain to me what an AB 321 or what AB 321 changes to solve that problem?
Paloma Guerrero. So the Nevada Division of Forestry does hire on formerly incarcerated people that have gone through the program. What this does, but right now it's sort of just a policy, and policies can change. So what AB 321 does is codify it so that people that have risked their lives fighting our wildfires here have that direct pathway to employment, and there's no sort of barrier or no sort of changes that can happen. From what I've learned from hearing Ms. Casey is that the Division of Forestry provides all of the certifications that they need. They provide the same certifications for incarcerated people as they do for any of their paid workers as well. I think the barriers one of the barriers that she mentioned is having an identification, because some people when they are released don't have an identification. That's a barrier that she talked about. But I think some of the barriers that other people think about is there's a difference between like local firefighters, like government firefighters, and the Division of Forestry firefighters. Right now, the Division of Forestry does hire, and besides having identification, it sounds like if they've gone through the program, they're good to be hired on. But of course, like local governmental firefighters have other certifications, like an EMT, where they have those sort of barriers for criminal records.
That makes sense, thank you. And one other clarifying question in section 4.5, subsection 1, well, so sections 1 and 2, I noticed it's an and. So the individuals who are eligible for this housing program have to have been previously denied parole solely due to the lack of other available transitional housing. So I'm trying to kind of understand what that looks like. And I'll just be upfront, my concern is that I hope we're not excluding people just because they haven't already gone through parole and been denied, and that we're able to catch them on the front end when they're in front of the parole board. If the issue is, oh, we can't grant this person parole simply because they don't have housing, we can route them directly to the forestry program and not have to deny their parole first. I mean, I guess you'd be denying it anyway, but I'm hoping you can kind of clarify for me what this looks like in practice.
Paloma Guerrero, for the record. Yeah, that is a language on it currently, and that was, again, from speaking with the Nevada Division of Forestry and NDOC and what they wanted the program to look like. So this is how the language ended up there. But I do agree with you that I think it'd be better if it was before they were denied parole. But this is just the language that they wanted in those conversations.
And that's satisfactory to me. Yeah.
Jovan Jackson, for the record. I know that the bigger goal of this bill was to start the conversations around there being a workforce development for people on probation, on parole, and this permissive language was to open up that dialogue with hopes to carrying a bill next session where people on parole, and they don't have to be denied, housing, will have the opportunity to have a workforce development with the Nevada Division of Forestry while on parole.
Excellent, thank you. All right, any other questions? Yes, Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Assembly Member, for bringing the bill. My question here, if the bill passes and signed into law, Do you think that folks who transition into, being firefighters for forestry might be able to pursue careers in local fire departments as well if they get this experience? Once they've, done their time and paid their debt to society, might be able to pursue other careers, fire department, EMT, things like that.
Paloma Guerrero, for the record, I think for that to happen, the localities need to change some of their policies as well, because for EMTs, to get your EMT certification, I know that there's still the barrier of having a criminal record on there. So some things we need to change on the local level. What Ms. Casey has said before is that the reason why they are able to hire on and the Division of Forestry is different from the more local government firefighters is that they don't have EMTs. They don't require it. They don't require their personnel to have any sort of drugs or administer drugs. And I think hopefully in the future, if we have these experienced people with qualifications who have been out fighting fires, then they could maybe be eligible for local government employment. But right now, there's just too many barriers with having a criminal record and the certifications that they have to have on the local level.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the bill, and hopefully maybe we'll see that change in the future. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right. I think that wraps up our questions for you this afternoon. Thank you so much both for being, or all three of you, excuse me, for being here. Thank you for this presentation, answering all of our questions. We'll move now into testimony, starting with testimony in support of AB 321 in person here in Carson City. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon again, Chair and committee members. This is Nick Shepak, N-I-C-K-S-H-E-P-A-C-K. I'm the Nevada State Director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center. We are always looking for ways to ensure that individuals successfully re-enter society until we do what I know you're all chomping at the bit to do, which is eliminate all fees in the system. People need a way to pay those, and jobs upon release is one of those key factors. The forestry firefighting has been a mess for many seasons where it seems like people can work and it seems like people can't, and I think what this bill does is create a clear pathway to ensure that people who are well trained as firefighters can continue doing that work, and secondly, that individuals who are being released on parole, at least a subset of them, have that opportunity to join into these training programs and this type of transitional housing. I think it'll help alleviate a major problem, which is wildland firefighting in our rurals, also giving people opportunities, lower recidivism. It's a great bill and we strongly support it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel and members of the committee. My name is Tara Webster, T-A-R-A-W-E-B-S-T-E-R. I'm the policy manager with the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada here in support of Assembly Bill 321. The Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada believes that the state of Nevada should recognize the contributions of previously incarcerated individuals and provide them with opportunities to pursue meaningful and rewarding careers after they've served their time. Thank you.
All right, I don't see anybody else coming forward to give in-person support testimony. So we'll go to the phones, please, for support testimony on AB 321.
If you would like to testify in support to Assembly Bill 321, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Doug Unger, D-O-U-G-U-N-G-E-R, member, Nevada Prison Education Project. Thank you, Chair Scheibel, Flores, and members of the committee. The Nevada Prison Education Project is an independent organization that includes teachers from colleges and universities in the Nevada system of higher education, several community groups, justice-impacted students, and the Nevada Department of Corrections. We all work together to improve and expand prison education in our state. We wish to acknowledge the invaluable and life-risking work that some of the incarcerated in Nevada contribute to fighting wildfires that threaten and ravage our state. AB 321 will augment and recommend a clear pathway for formerly incarcerated firefighters to pursue further training and, upon their release, be able to join the workforce as professionals who perform this vital service. Approving AB 321 will help to provide post-incarceration housing and employment that can restore self-esteem and dignity and reduce recidivism. The Nevada Prison Education Project stands in support. We thank Assemblymember Jackson for bringing forward and presenting this bill. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair Scheibel, members of the committee. My name is Denise Bolaños Heredia, Bolanos-Heredia. I'm the Associate Director of Return Strong, and we strongly support AB 321. We saw during the recent wildfires in Los Angeles how incarcerated firefighters played a critical role in protecting these communities, despite knowing they'd face barriers to doing that same job once released. Nevada benefits when people coming home from prison can use the skills they've learned to contribute, support their families, and reduce the chance of returning to prison. AB 321 is about second chances, and second chances aren't just about someone proving that they deserve one. They also demand a society that sees people as more than their worst mistake. We want to thank Assemblymember Jackson for bringing this bill, and we urge you to support it. Thank you.
Chair, there are no further callers wishing to testify in support at this time.
All right, then we will go to testimony in opposition. Anybody wishing to give opposition testimony is invited forward to do so now in person. I don't see anybody coming forward in Carson City or Las Vegas, so we will go to the phones, please, for opposition testimony on AB 321.
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 321, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers wishing to provide opposition testimony at this time.
All right, then we will go to neutral testimony. Anybody wishing to testify in neutral in person is invited forward to do so now. I don't see anyone coming forward, so we will go to the phone lines for neutral testimony on AB 321.
If you would like to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 321, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers wishing to provide neutral testimony at this time.
All right, then that brings us to the conclusion of testimony on AB 321. If the sponsors have any closing remarks, we'll invite you down now to give those remarks.
Jovan Jackson for the record. Mr. Griffin is going to have the last words, but I will say that, these inmates are ultimately risking their life to protect and serve the state of Nevada. They are minimum risk inmates. They work on these fire sites with no police supervision, no law enforcement supervision. They work with axe, chainsaws, many tools within communities, on the side of highways, on ranches, and they're able to do this job while incarcerated. And we just want to, uplift them and allow them by law to be hired by the Nevada Division of Forestry, the same organization that they were hired when they were incarcerated. With that being said, I'll give the last words to Mr. Griffin.
Thank you, Chair Scheibel and committee. One of my major projects as the Poet Laureate is to try and get a creative writing program started in every prison in Nevada. Tonight we start in Southern Desert. This will be our fourth prison we're going to go into. And the reason we're doing that is that once these individuals take these workshops, they stay out of prison. And when they get out of prison, they need to do something. They need to find a job. And this bill will help them get that job. And I think it's essential that we make that possibility happen. The climate's pretty hot. The political climate's pretty hot in our country right now. This bill is about kindness. This bill is about mercy. This bill is about forgiveness. And I know that we can do this. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, all of you, for presenting AB 321 to us this afternoon. I'll now close the hearing on AB 321, and that takes us to the final item on our agenda for today, public comment. Anybody wishing to give public comment in person is invited forward to do so now in Carson City or Las Vegas. I don't see anybody coming forward to give public comment, so we will go to the phones, please, for any public comment.
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public line is open and working. However, there are no callers wishing to provide public comment at this time.
All right, then that brings us to the conclusion of our meeting for today. We do have another one tomorrow, same time, same place, and until then, we are adjourned.